Hello friends, so good morning. We'll continue on Sqoop workshop, and let me set up the WebEx and we'll take it from there. And keep in mind that these videos are primarily for the backup for the people who are taking my live classes, but I'm streaming for others also. I'm giving access to others. If you want to practice, please sign up to my lab, labs.itversity.com. And whatever I'm demonstrating this, you can actually practice. And if you have any questions, you can always write those things in discuss.itversity.com. So let me set up the environment in WebEx, and we will start on where we stopped since yesterday. Okay. So I'm back on WebEx. I'm sharing my screen now on WebEx, and I'm recording the videos. Before getting into that, let me I need to understand the issue. So you will get an email after the session is completed, Hemant, and in that there will be a link. You have to click on that, and you need to have something called network player from WebEx, and then you will be able to play those videos. Check with the others. Probably there could be some firewall issue, so make sure that issue is sorted out. And also, I do not remember people who took my earlier classes. You can check with those guys and download and keep as a repository internal to Tawant, so that everyone don't have to access through internet when using WebEx. That can saturate Tawant network, and there can be some buffering issues. So check with I forgot his name. I will tell in the next class. Check with those guys, or you can also ask Ankit Pandey. Yeah, probably Mohan is a good candidate. So you can check with Mohan and see if there is a way to download these WebEx videos and have a repository within Tawant itself and play directly using any Windows media player or something or the other media player, so that it does not saturate the internet. Okay. So now coming back to the class, we will continue talking about Sqoop. Okay, so Sqoop help import is the command to get the details. So most of the important commands except these validates, most of the important control arguments of Sqoop import except this validate are covered in last 3-4 classes. And also we have covered output line formatting arguments yesterday, and we see how the decision to import into Hive can be impacted. If you want to import data using Sqoop into Hive tables, how these two things has to be integrated is determined by these output line formatting arguments, and I have demonstrated and covered as part of yesterday's class. And also earlier we have seen Hive import, how to import into existing Hive tables, and also how to create Hive tables while performing Sqoop import. These are all very, very important things which you need to practice quite extensively. So now we will talk about incremental import. Okay, and there are multiple ways to do that. We will see all those different approaches to perform the incremental import, and also I will start talking about import all tables as part of today's session. Okay, validate parameters I will cover a little bit later. Okay, so typically when incremental import is very important for any of the data integration projects. Okay, so for example, let's say I am logging into MySQL here. ret_dba post nn01.itversity.com. That's where MySQL database is. -p. It will prompt for the password. itversity is the password, and then use retail db and show tables, and we have this order items table. Okay, so orders and order items are transactional tables, whereas others, products, departments, customers, categories, are actually metadata tables. They don't change that frequently. But orders and order items, whenever there is an order placed in a portal, or whenever someone buy some products in a store, these orders and order items will be updated. Hence, orders and order items are called as transactional tables, and others are metadata tables, metadata for your business. Okay. Or from data warehousing terms, we can call categories, customers, departments, and products as dimensions, orders and order items as fact tables. Okay. So as if we have to import orders and order items, these tables will be updated daily. And if you want to run analytics, or if you want to report out of this data using big data technologies, you have to capture the delta and you have to load the data into Hadoop using Sqoop or some other approach. Here we are talking about Sqoop. Now, if you go to order items, okay, there are 6 fields in this table. Okay, order item ID, order item order ID, order item product ID, order item quantity, order item subtotal, and order item product price. So first, again, when it comes to data warehousing, there are 2 types of tables. One is insert only. We just have to capture whatever is modified on the source and insert to the target table. We don't need to upsert. Upsert means if there is a matching key, update the record. If there is no matching key, insert the record. That is called as upset or merge, whatever it is. So one is upset and one is insert only. Sometimes when it comes to data warehousing, even though data is updated on the source system, we might have to perform insert on the target for several reasons. Okay, I don't want to get into those reasons at this time. You need to understand the data warehousing best practices, why we actually do, why we actually insert the updated data into the target table. You need to understand the data warehousing better practices to get the logic. I don't want to get into details right now, but just understand that even though your source data is updated or inserted, your target table has to be inserted in some cases. Some cases, you have to maintain the snapshot as is on the source on the target. Okay, and these are the 2 typical scenarios. Okay, now let's see how to determine the way to import the data. Here, there is no date included in order items table. So if there is no date in this, we cannot easily capture the delta. Okay. For that, what we have to do, there are multiple ways to do that. One is you have to force the source system, which is this database. You have to talk with those guys and ask them to add a new column called probably order item update date or order item create date, whatever it is. And for each and every insert and update, you have to ask them to update that column so that you can actually capture the delta using date. That is one approach. You have to negotiate with the source team and they have to add this new column. If it is database like Oracle or even most of the databases, there's a concept called trigger. So without making any code changes at the database level, we can suggest them to create a trigger if triggers are supported and keep on updating. So whenever there is an update in the on a row in the table, that field has to be updated, and using that update date field, you can capture the delta and load into the target. So it's not only from Sqoop perspective, you have to analyze the problem from the source system perspective and also from the Sqoop perspective, and then come up with the solution. In some cases, we have to push for code changes on the source applications. So if triggers are not available, if you are using, let's say, Postgres, and let's say there are no triggers, I am not 100% sure whether there are triggers or not. Let's assume that there are no triggers. So how to address the issue of updating the field? As part of the code, they have to refactor, and wherever the table is inserted or updated in the entire application, you also have to add additional logic to update this update date field, so that you can capture the delta using tools like Sqoop. If you think from only Sqoop perspective, sometimes you will not get solution from the problem. You have to get into the you have to understand the source applications also, and come up with the solution, and you have to push for the design changes, and then modify their code, and provide and then only will be capable enough to pull the data. So in this case, there is no easy way to get the delta from order items. Okay, and then we have table orders. Okay, here you have order ID, order date, order customer ID, and order status. Okay, so even here it is not very easy to pull the data. Okay, even though there is a date field. What is that order date? Order date is when the order is placed. Okay, you cannot capture if there is an update on that. So what is the life cycle of an order? First you will create an order in new state. So for example, here if I say select distinct order status from orders and hit enter. So there are these many statuses. So probably the order might start with new or probably pending. And if it is on hold, if you don't have enough products in your warehouse, you might put it on hold, or you might put it on some other status. Or if you don't want to ship the product immediately to the customer for whatever reason, you might put it on hold. Okay, and your order can also be in pending. And once the order is shipped, it might change into processing. And once it is delivered, and and if you did not get the payment, the order status might change to pending payment, and then it might get into complete. Once after a few days, you will change the completed order to closed. So for a period of time, for a given order, there will be n number of updates. Okay, and whenever there is an update, to run analytics on top of it, what you have to do? You have to get those updated data also, and you have to apply transformations and load data into the target table, out of which you want to perform the reporting. So in this case also, order date cannot be used to capture the delta. Okay, even orders, we have to add a new field called order, probably order underscore update date, and then we have to make sure that field is updated whenever there is an insert into the table and whenever there is an update into the table. Okay, so this is so you have to think from the holistic, the whole application perspective, and you have to push for some changes on the code on the source system. That's where the actual politics will start. Okay, if this application is running for a few years, and now you are asking to add new fields and refactor the code, and even though it's not a major change for you, on the source side, it can be a major change. They have to refactor the code in many ways, in many places, and even if they miss in one place, it will have negative impacts. So they will be very averse to make those changes. So that's where the politics will creep in, and you have to be knowledgeable and graceful enough to deal with those politics and get whatever you want. Otherwise, your project can be at risk. Okay, one approach is, if you are familiar with databases, if the source database is Oracle, without making any code changes, you can just create a trigger. You can tell the source system to create a trigger and update the date whenever there is an insert or update happens on the table. And even then, they will be a little bit skeptical, because it can have some performance issues. So you might have to work as a team and make sure it is well tested and there won't be any impacts to the SLAs for their application because of this additional change in the database, and you have to take it from there. Okay, so more than understanding Sqoop, that is more important from the project perspective to capture the delta. You should first figure out whether the delta can be captured or not. Then you can come up with the solution, whether using Sqoop or some other method. Okay, so any questions here? If you don't have any questions, then I will get into the Sqoop perspective, how to capture the delta using different approaches. Otherwise, if you have any questions on whatever I have discussed thus far, I'll be glad to explain, because that is very, very important to understand. Okay, syntax and semantics, you can just refer the documentation and you can get it. But whatever I have explained is very, very important to come up with the application. Otherwise, what will happen? The management or the sales guys will commit, and they will start putting the pressure. And in the pressure, you might not do the appropriate analysis, or you might limit your analysis on the topics where you have control, and ignore the other areas where you don't have control. And in the end, someone or the other will become the scapegoat. So you have to be extremely careful to figure out and commit anything to the upper management, especially when it comes to dealing with multiple teams while developing these applications, or if there are dependencies on the external teams. You have to be cognizant about the challenges they might face on the other side, and based on that, you have to come up with your commitment. It's very, very, very important. Okay. Again, you can rethink about this, and you can come back with the questions anytime later. But that is very, very important. Now let us see the technical aspect. So to perform the incremental load is nothing but identify the delta since the last run and load into the target database. So for that, let's say you have a date. Let's assume this order date is good enough. Okay, so or you can also use order ID, which is unique. And let's assume that orders, always data is inserted into the orders. Okay, there are no updates. Let's assume that every time data is inserted, because order ID is a primary key on the table, there will be a new ID created for each and every data, for each and every record. Okay, now either if it is an insert only table on the source database, we can either use order ID to capture the delta, or we can use order date if there is a update date logged into that field, and then we can capture the delta. For both the scenarios, we can use where clause. Okay, so if you go to the Sqoop help import and go to the control arguments, the main ones, you have where clause. So as part of the where clause, you can tell where order ID greater than the value which the maximum of the value that is imported so far. So how to get that? So this is how it will work. Let me start Sublime Text here. Okay, so this is how it will work. So as part of the first run, what you will do, you will do the baseline run. Baseline is different from day-to-day run. So as part of the first baseline run, first you will do Sqoop import and get whatever is there in the table. So there won't be any where condition. So you will just run something like this. Okay, so what will happen? Whatever is there in the source orders table, it will be automatically loaded. So immediately after doing Sqoop import, we need to capture what is the maximum value. So here let us assume that orders is insert only, and order ID is always incremented, and whatever is there in the orders table we have copied. So immediately we have to run a command. What is that command we should run to get what is the maximum value that is imported? We cannot go to HDFS and check, because checking from HDFS will take long time. There is another way where we can get the maximum value that is imported till that as part of the baseline. What is that command? Can you guys guess how to get that value? So you can go to that's correct, eval. Eval is the command which you need to use, and as part of the eval, you can issue a query and get and just select max of order ID from orders. So if you do this at a active time, what will happen? There might be new orders that might have been placed when this import is running, or between the import ran and the eval command, there might be few orders placed, and the query might give incorrect results. So to address that issue up to some extent, instead of running Sqoop eval only at the end, run the Sqoop eval at the beginning, get the max of order ID, and then Sqoop eval at the end, get the max, and log it into some location. It could be a database. Again, to store this information into a database, you can issue Sqoop eval command again. In the first Sqoop eval, we are just selecting max of order ID from orders. Okay. Here also select max of order ID from orders. Okay. And typically when we actually implement any data integration framework, forget about big data, any data integration framework, you have to log the information. And logging includes whether the import is failed or succeeded. And we will actually log additional details such as this. Okay, the number of records that are imported, the maximum values, or whatever information that is required for the subsequent runs. Those things will be logged into a table, even in traditional data integration framework. Either it will be logged into tables, or it could be logged into files, flat files. Typically, it will be logged into the tables. So there should be, so for your data integration framework, there should be a small database, a lightweight database, where you will store this log information. It could be a MySQL database. So when you run Sqoop eval, instead of just getting the max, probably you can actually say insert into log table, select max of order ID from orders, and you can actually say this is before run, and then you can also give a unique ID, a system generated ID for that run, and you should use that unique identifier for the entire run. So this is all developing. You have to develop this intelligence as part of your application. That's why I was saying understanding the commands is just 5 to 10%, and you can go through the documentation and you can get those details. But developing the application using those commands is the key for the project, not the commands. But unfortunately, in the interview process and all, people focus on commands. If I am the hiring manager, I will test their programming skills, scripting skills. Even if they don't know anything about Hadoop, I can train them, and I can make sure that they work on projects effectively. Okay, so this to have the application developed, you have to know these best practices. And as part of the data integration, we will log the important information, and as part of the logging table, we will log the maximum order ID before the run, and we will log after the run and see if there is a difference. And if there is a difference, we have to take the necessary action. Sometimes we can fix those automatically, sometimes we might not be able to fix those automatically. So that we have to document and we have to follow those. That's where the operations teams comes into picture. Anyway, now typically we run the Sqoop import commands in the dull period when the business is not very active. New orders when the processing is happening should not be done, or the impact should be minimal on the overall project. We have to choose the time to schedule our applications. We will not be running Sqoop import day in and day out. Probably we might run once in a day, once in a week, once in a month, depending upon our project SLS. Okay, so this is how it will look like. First we got the maximum order ID from orders, then we ran the Sqoop import, then again we ran the maximum of order ID from orders. If we compare these two, if there is a change, that means there could be some new data which is inserted, and we have to take the necessary action. If both are same, that means we are good to go. And using this information in the subsequent run, so this is the baseline. In the subsequent run, so first what we have to do, again we have to run Sqoop eval command and issue a select query and get the maximum order ID. If the logs are in log tables, we can issue the select query. If they are in files, then you have to use scripting to get this information from the files. Okay, so here let's assume that the logging is happening into the tables in a database like MySQL. Hence, we can actually run Sqoop eval command to get the order ID till which the last import is done, and using that information. So now we will get the order ID. Okay, and we have to use that order ID. Greater than that order ID, we should be importing in the subsequent run. So now in the subsequent run, everything will remain same. Only difference is we have to include the logic to perform the incremental loads. So how we will do? Here one approach is use where condition, and I can say order ID greater than, and this has to be assigned to a variable. Okay, and we can, if it is a shell scripting, we can read that variable like this: $max underscore order ID. We have to put it in curly braces. If you don't put curly braces, there is a shell cannot, the shell interpreter cannot differentiate the variables properly. Sometimes we have to put the variable names in the curly braces so that it will consider this part as one shell variable. Shell interpreter will actually get the correct value. Okay, so that's why I put it in the curly brace. Now we will be programmatically submitting this command, and this with where condition will get all the new orders since the last run, and then it will start importing the data. If you have date, you can use the date also, and it will, based on the date, you will get the data. Okay, here shell script, if you decide to implement this with shell scripting, having in-depth knowledge of shell scripting is very, very important. Okay, these things has to be dynamically generated and submitted at runtime, and also you have to capture the logs to make sure if there are any exceptions, and then the email notification has to be sent to the operations team if the import is successful or not. And can you recollect how to redirect the logs? I will come back to that question, Ravindra. So just answer how to please recollect. That's correct. Not just greater than. You have to redirect standard error, which is 2 greater than. You have to say 2 greater than, and you can redirect to a log file. And probably every time you have to create a new log file, or you have to stream and capture the errors. It's up to you how you want to tackle the problem. So how the max order ID is populated? So here there is a way when you run, what will happen? So I can say Sqoop eval, okay, --connect jdbc, MySQL. So I'm talking from shell scripting perspective. Depending upon the programming language, it will be different. nn01.itversity.com 3306. Yeah, that I didn't try Sqoop job as part of my project, which I have taken care earlier. At that time, we tried Sqoop job initially, but there were some issues. So probably they might have fixed those issues by now. That's why we didn't create. I will explore that whether Sqoop job can be done, and I will confirm. Okay, unless you practice, you should not come to the conclusion. You have to be extremely careful with these open source tools. Okay, whatever I'm talking, I have actually implemented real time for Walmart. Okay, so now I give username retail_dba and password itversity and query. Select max of order ID from orders. Okay, and if you run this query, you will get this information. So you have to pass this and assign it to a variable, and then which is max order ID, and then you have to take it from there. Okay, so first you have to run this query. It will give the output like this. So you have to identify first. You can actually ignore a lot of this noise by saying to dev null if you don't want to redirect to anything. Okay, now you got only these two lines and then rest of the stuff. Okay, and then you can see you have this, right? So what you can do is grep pipe. Now you got only these two. Now you have to ignore grep-v max or order ID, whatever it is. Then it will ignore this one also. Now what you have to do, you have to pipe it to awk or sed. So here I am using sed. Space is the delimiter, and I want to capture only the second one. So I can get print $2 and hit enter. Now I got the value. Okay, I can say max order ID equal to okay, now echo $max order ID. Now I assign to it. This is how you have to do. This is all about shell scripting. You should be familiar with the programming language which you want to use as part of your application. And I can actually put it in a file with .sh extension, and this max order ID will be assigned to this 68,883. Then I have to generate this. Okay, so once I capture max order ID with that value, automatically this will be replaced when I run this command with this back quotes. It will run as a shell command, and then it will issue that Sqoop import command, and that's how it works. Okay, so let me paste this. Okay, now let us go to the actual incremental import arguments provided by Sqoop officially. Sqoop import, Sqoop help import. And one thing you need to understand is Sqoop is only tested against MySQL and Postgres. Okay. So when it comes to implementing in databases like Oracle, you need to understand the side effects of using Sqoop. I will cover that later. Okay. That is very, very important. If I forget, just remind me that, because from application development perspective, having knowledge about those challenges will help you significantly. Okay. And now we are talking about incremental import arguments. So here they are talking about check column, incremental, and last value. There are 3 different arguments. Okay. So instead of using where clause and saying order ID greater than that max order ID, we can check what is check column, what is last value, and we can tell whether you are we want to use append or last modified. For date, we have to use last modified. For numeric, we have to use append. Okay. So here the same query, instead of using where, we can also say I prefer where clause rather than those 3 control arguments if I have to do incremental load as part of my project. So here check column, it's order ID, and incremental, I think by default is append. So you can specify whatever you want. Sorry, you should specify append. If it is default, it's fine. Otherwise, you have to specify append. For date, you have to specify last modified. So here I am specifying as append. And then last value. Again, you can say last value as this if you want to program. Okay, for now I will hard code and I will give 60,000. Okay, and now I will run the Sqoop import twice. In this case, I am going to the original Sqoop import. Let me delete this. Let me check if there is data in this location. There is data in this location. Okay. 1 minute hive. From orders. This is copied yesterday, right? Oh, shoot. I actually did not specify limit. That's fine. It is fast enough. So we got all the data. But if I run select count from orders, it is returning 0. If you remember this, I have created a table. Okay. Sorry, I have imported the data yesterday, and then I have created this orders table. And then we have validated with this query, select star from orders limit 10, and it gave the results. So because it is not using MapReduce here, it is giving the results directly. But when I run this select count from orders, it is giving 0 because the metadata is not updated. We have created a table called orders pointing to that location where the data is already existing. Okay, if you recollect, I'm explaining again. So what we have done towards the end of yesterday's Sqoop session, we actually did Sqoop import like this, which have created this orders directory, and we successfully copied the data. And then we have created table pointing to that location. Okay, so using create table command. And then we just validated with limit 10 because it is not using MapReduce. It was able to read the data. But now when I run select count of 1 from orders, it is not picking up the data properly. So for that, I think you have to run command called invalidate metadata. 1 minute. Hive metadata refresh. Okay, that is for Impala. 1 minute. Hive. There is a command actually. I think refresh metadata. Refresh. This is very important. Hive refresh. Yeah, this one. MSCK repair table. Orders. Okay, now if I do select count of 1 from orders, still it is not. Okay. That is weird. Why it is not showing up? MSCK repair table Digadiraju dot orders. It is not working. Anyway, I will figure it out a little bit later. But as you are seeing, it is not working as expected when we actually do the Sqoop import and then create a table on top of it. And there is some issue in integrating these two. I will troubleshoot a little bit later and come up with the solution. But for now, we are talking about a Sqoop import. So let me delete these files, or I will use a different location altogether. So here, instead of using apps hive warehouse, blah, 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 here I am saying user Digadiraju retail underscore DB. Okay. And let me check if that location already have some data. Hadoop fs-ls. So there is no data in that location. Actually, I need to use this here as well as here. And then first I want to just copy till 60,000. So where order ID greater than or equal to 60,000. And as part of the incremental load, I want to load beyond 60,000. That's why I have check column as order ID, incremental append, last value 60,000. Okay, first let us run this. We can perform Hive import also like this. So it is saying retrieve 8,884 records. Why? I think I have run the. I have to use less than or equal to. Sorry, that's why it is incorrect. Okay, I'm deleting this because I have issued a wrong query. Okay, so that's why we should focus on the counters. Using the counters itself, I am able to figure out that there was something wrong, because I know that this table have 68,883 records, and my intention as part of the baseline load is to copy 60,000 records, and using incremental load approach, I want to copy rest of the 8,884 records. Okay, now I can copy this one and paste it here. And now you can see that it has actually copied 60,000 records. That is enough for us to validate because we know the data in depth. Now let us try this incremental load. Now you can see it automatically picked up that order ID greater than 60,000 to compute the splits. Okay, now you can see its split is only 2,220, and using this, it actually copied the data 8,883 records. It is saying to use Sqoop job to create and preserve this, as Hemant, I think Hemant have mentioned. So you can use Sqoop job also, but the ideal way of integrating your ideal way of creating your application is you should log this information from where you can actually perform better operations. Even though Sqoop job give this facility, I'm not sure whether you will be able to create a robust application where you can use that information to log and all those things. So we need to understand not only just to preserve those values. Over a period of time, your operations should be able to go through the information and determine what type of errors we are frequently getting into, and whether the jobs are being successful at regular intervals or not. And for all those practical purposes, logging is very, very important. Okay, so I think when we actually developed this application 2 years back, I'm not 100% sure whether we can preserve these values, but from beginning itself, we actually want to send mail to operations team if there is a failure, so that developers are not involved on day-to-day basis. For that reason, we actually build the application the way I have explained earlier. Okay, so I haven't explored Sqoop job extensively. I will do that, and I will get back to you about the challenges, whether we can use it from building a robust data integration platform using the Sqoop commands as part of that application. Okay, so this is how you can use the use these three parameters to run the incremental load in the append mode, means to in the insert only mode onto the target target directory or target table. Okay, now if you want to use date, you can use date also, but instead of saying append, you have to say last modified, and you have to give the last value in appropriate format. It has to match the syntax of your it has to be in the acceptable syntax. The date has to be in the acceptable syntax where Sqoop can actually issue the query. I think it should be in YYYY, MMDD, and timestamp format. Okay, you can give a try on that, and if you run into any issues, you can let me know. I will have a look into that. So this is how you can perform the incremental load, and I will explain a couple of points here. Here we are getting the modified date using this last value, either by using date or by ID. We can fetch the data, but we are actually appending to the existing data. But at times, if the data is updated on the source, you have to update on the target. Okay, and there is no out-of-the-box solution as part of the Sqoop import for that. There is another command called Sqoop merge, and it's not a very simple process. It's a complicated process, and I will cover a little bit later. So if you have any questions how to update the data in the target directory or target Hive table, then you have to follow a different approach. Keep that in the back burner for now. We will see that little bit later. For now, we are reading the data which is modified and then appending to the existing table or existing directory in HDFS. So let me know if you have any questions. If you don't have any questions, we'll start with import all tables. Whatever we can cover in next 15 minutes, we'll try to cover. I have mentioned yesterday itself that I will take a little bit extra time today because we wrap up early yesterday. We will start with import all tables, and we will try to cover as much as possible in next 10-15 minutes. Then we will continue tomorrow. Here, if you have any questions on the incremental load, let me know. Okay, so you can ask question anytime. So let me now get into the import all tables. So like import, we have import all tables command. So to get the help, just say Sqoop help import all tables and hit enter. And you can see the arguments are almost same like import. Okay, we have seen this for even in import, but here you can see that there is no append when you try to do import all tables. Okay, so import all tables are primarily intended for the baseline. You should not use it on capturing the delta, and it is not possible because each table delta criteria will be different. So it is for all practical purposes, you cannot use import all tables to capture the delta. So incremental load is out of question for import all tables. And then auto reset to one mapper, I have explained that it's same here. So and it is a lot more useful in import all tables than in import, because if you have 100 tables and if you want to import everything in one shot, and some of them might have primary key and some of them might not have. So wherever you have primary key, by default it uses 4. If you want to use different value, you can say here. Otherwise, if you don't have primary key, you cannot use split by the way we have done in simple import. Instead, you can use auto reset to one mapper, and for all those tables where there are no primary keys, it will use only one thread to copy the data. And then compression codec is same. When you do import all tables, if you want to exclude, so let's say you have 100 tables, and if you want to exclude few of them, you can actually pass all the tables that needs to be excluded, I think with comma separated value in double quotes, and it will exclude all those tables which you don't want to import. And then number of mappers to tell how many mappers we should use. Warehouse directory, here you don't apply target directory, you only use warehouse directory, because when you try to import 100 different tables, it has to go into 100 different directories, and you cannot give 100 different directories as part of the single command. So you will give the base directory into which the tables have to be copied, and for each table it will create a subdirectory in this warehouse directory, and then it will copy data into those directories, and the directory names in that warehouse directory will match the table name. So these are the parameters, and this is the most similar to import statement. Some of them are not there as part of the list because they are not applicable to import all tables, especially like target directory, split by, where clause. You cannot give query. All those things which are not possible for all practical reasons while importing multiple tables are discarded from import all tables. Okay. Now let me run a simple import all tables, and then we will understand how actually the import all tables run. So I'm trying to develop in Sublime. So here instead of import, I'm saying import all tables, and then we cannot give table name or query or anything. So I'm copying only username, password. I'm not copying the table name. And here we have to give the warehouse directory so that subdirectories will be created. And here I'm saying user D Gadraju import all tables. Okay. And then if you want to exclude one of the tables, let's say I don't want to exclude departments, and I don't want to copy departments and category, I can say exclude tables, and I'm giving 2 here, departments, categories. We have total 6 tables, so we are excluding 2, so it should copy 4 tables at least. Okay, and if you want to use compress, you can, if you want to do compression, you can use compress and compression codec, and that's it. All the tables have primary keys, so we don't need to use auto reset to one mapper. And if you want to copy files into Avro format instead of text file format, you can say add Avro data file. Okay, and let us run this and see what will happen. So it started with customers. So what it is doing, it is actually picking one table and applying the min logic, max logic on the primary key field, and then computing splits, and then copying the data for that table, and then moving on to the next table. So first it started with customers, now it got into order items, then it will go to orders. It will go in ascending order by the table names. So we have 4 tables. We are trying to copy 4 tables: customers, orders, order items, and products. So it is actually doing in alpha in a ascending order based on the table names. So first it copied customers, then it copied order items, order underscore items, then orders. Now it is trying to copy orders, and then it will copy products. Okay, it's the same as the import. Only thing is, it is trying to loop through the tables which we want to copy and running the import command. And for all practical purposes, Sqoop import all tables does not support parameters such as table, target directory, where condition, query, or the incremental loads. All those things are not possible. Okay, so that's about Sqoop import all tables. If you have any questions, let me know. We can actually validate by saying Hadoop fs-ls user dgadiraju import all tables with the warehouse directory which we have given, and you can see it copied 4 tables, so we can see 4 directories, and number of mappers are 4. So if you say star here, in each directory there are 4 files, and the extension is Avro because we are doing Avro. We are trying to create files in Avro format. Okay, and also when we run in arrow format, you will find avsc files wherever you ran this sqoop import all tables command. Okay, so any questions here about sqoop import all tables? And again, we will do sqoop help import all tables. We already covered the typical sqoop import, and now we will get into the Hive arguments. Okay, Hive arguments, you can see the parameters are similar. We have create Hive table. So if the table already exists, if you want to fail it, you can say create Hive table. You can give Hive database name if you want to import into a specific database. If you want to overwrite if the table exists, you can use overwrite. To make it as a Hive import, you have to say it, the import as Hive import. Even though it actually says Hive table, you cannot actually specify Hive table. I think it will not work. So some of the arguments, even though they mention here, it's a documentation bug. I don't think you will be able to specify Hive table because we are trying to copy multiple tables. How can we load into one table? It's not possible. So most likely it might be a documentation bug. Okay, and even map column Hive probably might it might not be possible when it comes to import all tables. Most likely these are all documentation bugs. Okay, so that's why you have to practice and make sure whether those parameters work or not, because there is no dedicated support for these things. They get away with all these issues. If this documentation is from a company which provides support to you, then you can hold their neck if something goes wrong. But it's a open source tools, and you are trying to use open source technologies, and no one will be there to support you. Okay, anyway, here now I will try to do sqoop Hive import. Okay, so first import all tables. 1 minute. Okay. So instead of typical import, now I am trying to do sqoop Hive import. I'm copying same thing here. Okay, and here I want to exclude orders because orders is already there in Hive location. So I don't want to include orders table, and that's why I'm using exclude here. And I want to save it as Avro data file, and then I want to use Hive import. Okay, and Hive import by default, if there is no table, it will create the table for you. The create Hive table is if the table already exists, it should fail saying that table already exists. For that purpose, we have that control argument, a very misleading control argument called create Hive table. Okay, so now let me try to run this again. I want to specify the database name also. Hive database is retail underscore D Gadiraju. My OS, I have a database with my OS username. Now I'm trying to run this, and warehouse directory should not be there. Okay, because with Hive import, we have to give the Hive database, not the warehouse directory. Okay, in this case, it is not compatible. Import all tables and Avro format will not work. So that's why we have to try and make sure it works as expected. So I'm removing this also. I think even with typical import also, probably it might fail. You might not be able to use Avro format as part of Hive import, even with typical import. Now I'm I'm using a default file format, which is a text file. So now we'll see 5 tables in Hive database called dgadraju, and we will validate, and then we will wrap up for today. So tomorrow, with respect to Sqoop also, I will give an exercise covering all the topics which are discussed so far, and I will give 1 hour time, or probably whatever time it takes. And if you have any issues while doing that exercise, I will take care of that. Okay, already categories is copied, so we can actually launch another session. Show tables, and categories and customers are done. We can actually preview the data saying select star from categories. And you can see all the data is fetched. Okay, everything is going on smoothly without any issues here. So categories, customers, with the departments, it got, yeah, departments is also done. With order items, yeah, order items is also done. I don't know why it is not logging everything here. We need to validate. Yeah, it is actually running properly, but I'm not sure why it is not logging. It was logging everything, but suddenly it stopped with categories. Probably some bug in the code. Okay, so we can check other tables also. Everything is created now. Select star from customers with 10. Departments. And then order items. I think some of the other person also trying to run this at the same time along with me. I'm not 100% sure. Is anyone running along with me? Because I'm getting double number of records in few tables. Okay, now the import is done. Products, order items. I don't know, something is wrong. Here it is saying numbers as 0, but still I am able to see the data. Categories 2050, this is all size. Not sure, I think some others also might be running the same command. I'm not 100% sure. That's why we are seeing some conflict, but it has ran successfully. I need to validate again if there is a bug when no one is there, to confirm that there is no bug. Okay, so any question here before we wrap up for today? So we have seen import all tables. It's very simple. Once you learn import all tables is very straightforward. Most of the complex arguments are discarded in import all tables for all practical purposes. And whatever is documented also, you should actually try to make sure you understand in detail. Don't go to a certification or even commit in the projects without practicing, without doing R&D and doing POC. Don't confirm anything just by going to the material. It will be highly misleading. There will be so many bugs, documentation bugs, and it can cause some issues to you. Okay, so be careful about that. That being said, I will give a few minutes to answer any questions. Again, I will wait for 15 seconds. If you have a long question, please mention in the chat that you are typing, and then you can ask the question. Otherwise, we'll wrap up for today. So tomorrow we will be doing exercise, as I have mentioned to you earlier. I am trying to give the tomorrow's class from a different location. I got a space from one of the company, and tomorrow I will try to sort out any issues. So if you have trouble as part of the tomorrow's class, just bear with me. Okay, it seems you guys don't have any questions. We'll catch up tomorrow. Thank you very much. Bye. And those who are on YouTube live, just stay on for a few minutes, and let me close the session, and then we will take it from there. So as I have been mentioning, if you like the content which I'm covering as part of these sessions, please click on the like, and if you want to share with your friends, please click on share, and you can share it on Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. That is more important. That is very important for me, so that I can reach out to more and more people through word of mouth. And if you want an environment to practice, just go to labs.itversity.com, sign up, and you can actually look into the plans. And these are the plans: $14.95 for 31 days, $34.95 for 93, $54.95 for 185 days. And whether you use my lab or not, if you have any questions on the material which have been covering these sessions, which are supposed to be backup for one of the corporate training, you can go to the discuss.itversity.com, and you can actually start creating the topic. If it is a Spark issue which you want to cover, you have to go to the big data category, and then in big data there are subcategories. If it is Sqoop, you can choose Sqoop, and then click on new topic, and you can write the issue here. Okay, so even if you are not enrolled for my lab, we will still support. And it's not only me, there are army of volunteers who are actually supporting people. So your answers will get answered within no time if you start using this discuss.itversity.com. And that being said, please spread the word about the lab and also these videos, so that more and more people can leverage this. And the more revenue my lab generates, we will try to reinvest majority of it in building a lot bigger lab, sophisticated and bigger lab, not only for Hadoop and Spark. We will also consider building lab for Cassandra, MongoDB, and all those things. So instead of spending money on marketing, we will try to spend money on increasing the scope of the lab, not only from the capacity of the lab, but also the ecosystem. We want to provide lab for each and every area of big data in next 6 months to 1 year. That will be possible only if I can cut down the marketing costs. That being said, thank you very much for attending this session, and we'll catch up tomorrow. Bye.